quick video, just me having fun making some music. I actually started this time around with the OPZ. I wish I had OPZ. OP1 field into to Ableton Live and added in the I really love the Spitfire audio plugins. This is the cinematic soft piano that I used here. Used it for that and the melody, which is right here. Scaler is always on deck up here. The Prism chords are really cool to use. This is a lo-fi jazz pack of chords. Picked me out some chords I like, put them together, played it with the OP1 field, just like I'd be on whether I'm on desktop or, sorry about that, desktop or here, same principle. But one of the cool things that I've appreciated, or that I've come to grips with, or loving rather I should say, is this right here. I always use Haze too, by the way. Make sure I have the camera pointed right. Is the Air Flavor Pro. So I use the Air Flavor Pro on the track just to give it some color, some character. I usually have it inside the Akai MPC Live, which I do use it there, but then sometimes I like to bring it out and put it as a VST in here. So you'll see I have it on a lot of stuff. Even the drums have their own. I use the MPC 60 version of it on the Pro. Love that. I didn't put it on, I don't think I put it on the bass. No, I didn't put it on the bass. I did use Haze 2 on the bass this time. This is Trillion. Use Trillion for the bass. I tend to stick with the more natural sounding basses too. I don't use a lot of synth stuff, but you'll see here muted bass right there for R&B vibes. And then, so there's the keys, all that good stuff. I showed you the melody is the same piano. So you'll see the kick and snare and hat and percussion are all audio. I just used like a J Dilla kit I had, which pretty much has just some nice quality kicks and stuff in there. I like them for like jazz and lo-fi stuff. And what else? Oh, Swarm Instruments. I have the I use the Valhalla vintage reverb on just about everything. Seriously, that's like my favorite reverb. There's the tenor sax, which is, mind you, this right here is on the iPad stuff too. So don't feel like you gotta have desktop to use it. The Valhalla is not, but I recently found out that the Valhalla had some hands-on stuff with the, I think it's the Audio Modern EOS is what it's called, 2, or ESOS 2. It's their reverb. So I actually like that reverb, and I have it too on the, which I'll be using when I do the iPad stuff. Air Flavor Pro is sort of like RC20. So if you have RC20, you can try to get that kind of sound. If you're on the iPad, you can use, I don't know what's on the iPad that's close enough. It's not much, but you can see what's in here. Pitch, distortion, digital, vinyl effect, volume, and then like the timbre. So you might have to piece together a few apps to make this. The vinyl part, you will have to probably use, there's a lot of stuff coming out though for Vinyl Crackle, and this one's so detailed. I just love it. Look at this noise, hum. So you got everything built in there. You can adjust it. Here's the bit rate for the digital. So anything that adjusts bit rate, actually Tone Boosters, if you get all the Tone Booster stuff, you could do a lot of this because they have a reel-to-reel, which I love. I use it a lot. You can get the, they also have the bit juggler, which can give you the digital portion of it. The vinyl portion is in the reel-to-reel. I don't know about the timbre or pitch, all that's different. You might have to get something different if you want that. But the distortion, you can get a distortion plug-in with the high pass and low pass, that type of vibe. Create your own little mix for how you want that to be. I ran the Swam instruments through that same MP60, which I like, and the Valhalla to give it a little more reverb. And I think that sounds pretty good. But here's the track nonetheless. So let's go back. Okay, what did I use to... So after I came over the keys, this is the oldest trick in the book if you don't have, like, if bass is not your forte. I like to play the bass, but today I was being lazy. I didn't want to play the bass, so I just used it on here. But what I did was I copied the chords down to here. That's why you see it says key chords instead of bass. I'm going to rename that actually to bass while we're here. Rename this one to, which I could have just duplicated because it's the same thing, whatever. And then change the color of this to, I think it's that green. That looks close enough. There, now we'll just make sure they're both. So there's the bass now fixed. So the oldest trick is just to copy this to here, right? And just grab the bass notes. But instead of playing it as identical to what it shows up here, I'll show you the key chords. Instead of playing it identical like this, I left some of it identical, but I've switched some of these around. So let's go back here. You'll see, I know there's a way. Let me see if I can do this. I don't do this often, but you can put the ghost notes in here. I just don't remember how, because it's been a minute. All right, so that's another video. I'll do that later. I got to remember how to add the ghost notes where you can see the keys. I think you have to select both tracks, but I can't do that and hold this camera at the same time. So, well, maybe I can. Hold on, let's see. Shift here. Is that it? Yeah, okay, that is it. And then you do focus, and then you can pick your track that you want to focus on. I did it. Okay, so you highlight all three, and then it shows up, and then hit focus, and then you can focus on whatever track you want to. So you see how the melody's right there. Let me see if I can, oops, I don't want to change anything. Can't do that. Okay, whatever. So here's the bass notes. So the bass notes are the same. You'll see the other notes peeking through a little bit here. You see they're pretty much the same. They're following it. But this one I extended. And then over here, did the same thing. Extended a little bit. Left these over here. Extended this one instead of having it play that way. And that's just a good way to do it if you want. And by the way, you can draw these in too with the command right here. It's not even a command. Just hit the B when you're inside of here. Watch. So you're inside, just hit the B and you'll see the pencil tool. So you can do your drawing in for those that enjoy that. Yeah, so here it is. And that's what I did on that. Now, the other thing was the kicks and the snares. I wanted this to sound as lo-fi. So when I added, I always have a drum bus down here so that I don't have to put it on each one. But then sometimes on the hi-hat, you'll see here I used audio damage. By the way, this is on iPad too. Oh, that was cool. On iPad also. I use a basic sync pan for the hi-hats to get it moving a little bit. Well, you can't see that if I do that. Go back. So let's see. Let's put, it's going back and forth through the speakers. But But then if you look down below here, I have a tambourine that's keeping the timing too, right? And because it's on the offbeat there a little bit, instead of with the hi-hats going back and forth and that, it gives you a nice, I think, well-rounded sound in my opinion. It's just opinions, whatever. So that's that. I played the saxophone through one time. I don't like to quantize or do anything with notes with regards to that because I want it to be as live as possible. So I did a whole 16 bars of me just playing, and that's pretty much what I did. I do use scalers sometimes. In this case, I did, but I'll show you how I use it. I think I talked about this in a previous video. Whereas you can remove this and key lock this up here to the white notes. I don't key lock anymore. I just learn the scale. So like here I'm in D flat Lydian mode. So the blue ones represent what's in the scale. So what I'll do is I'll learn it and then just play it. So I know C, C sharp, D sharp is in the scale. I know F, G, A sharp, or G sharp rather, I'm sorry, A sharp. Those are the notes. So it's really only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes in the scale. Learn those 7 notes and then you just float across the board finding those notes. And that's, to me, the best way instead of doing the key lock. If you really feel like you can't do it, then use the key lock. Or let's say you have, all you have is a drum pad or something like that you're using, then I could maybe understand using the key lock on pads because it's kind of harder to remember. But on the keyboard, I feel like because it corresponds to the same keys, it's a little bit easier just to remember the keys in that way. And that is it for this track. It was fun. It was just something to do, not because I was bored, but just because I was needing a little relaxation. So that's it. So that's MIDI for me. You'll see I don't use MIDI often. Most of the time I'm using audio, which is right here. And I prefer to use audio. And Ableton makes audio using so much easier because the editing is just crazy. With those warp markers and things of that nature that you can do, the way it stretches and time stuff, just super easy to use. So yeah, I did this. This is what it is, and hopefully you learned something from it. If I didn't have a keyboard and all I had was a computer, then what I would do is this right here. So you see these 3? These 2, this is your keyboard. Need to change the octaves in it, you use these right here. So this is how I would do it on here. And then the trick always is if you want it to sound like it's, because these aren't, obviously the keyboard here isn't velocity sensitive. Now they just added the velocity sensitivity to this one. But before that, what I would do to make it work was use scalar, or you can use, I'm trying to think, any of them that allow you to do the humanized effect should work. And you can even do timing or both on these, or even adjust the swing. They have the swing in there. But turn on the humanize with velocity and let it help you with velocity, especially if you're going to use this. See? So there you have it. And if you're doing, let's say you're on the iPad and you're doing a swam instrument and you don't have a controller to control the vibrato, you can literally take your finger and just use the vibrato while you're playing the notes with one hand. Because you're playing single notes anyway. It's not like you're playing chords on a horn, on a saxophone. So use your finger and slide up and down on your vibrato to get it, just like having one of those pads on a keyboard, and then just play the notes. You want a pitch bend, same principle, use the pitch bend is right here, right? So here, everything else is pretty good set, and there's different settings you can use. So let's see, what are those different ones? Classical, jazz, the sound. Ooh, what is the sound? So let's go back and see what the sound. Sounds pretty dang good. Okay, so that's the sound. No wonder it's called the sound. So there you have it. A lot of the stuff I'm using is on the iPad too, so you don't have to use the computer to do it. The hardest part would be coming up with those Flavor Pro pack things. So if you don't have an MPC or you don't have a computer to put the VST on, start digging for other apps. There's some UA apps I think that sound pretty cool. And there's a mixture of apps. I would definitely go Tone Booster when it comes to the bit rate, when it comes to the reverb, when it comes to the reel-to-reel. Those three, to me, getting that Tone Booster stuff is going to be amazing. It's going to change your production on iPad. Cool thing about Tone Booster that I've said in the past too is they are on the iPhone. So if you're on the iPhone, you got it there as well. You also have like the Lo-Fi Dirt plug-in that's really good. That'll give you that I think they have an MPC setting, 60 setting in there too. I can't remember how good it is because it's been a while since I used it, I believe. But that plug-in is cool to have. And you can adjust the settings in there and try to get your stuff as close as you can, especially for your drums. FAC Transit is it's on the computer too, but it's also on the iPad. One of my favorites for putting a little compression on the drums. Oh, and that new one from Baby Audio, the crystalline reverb is good, as well as that iHeart New York, I think, or IH New NY, I think is what it's called too. That one's really good for the drums. So I actually grabbed that one in the Tone Booster stuff, and I think you could do a good bit of things like what I'm doing here on the computer. So I actually have those on the iPad too, so I love them. So I wouldn't say it if I didn't use it, believe me. Yeah, and that's it. You don't need all the Swan instrument stuff unless you're trying to do some orchestral type stuff. Get the ones that you would use the most. For me personally, it's the tenor sax that I use. The flute is nice. Occasionally a flute can be fun to use. And probably the trumpet is the most. I use the trumpet and the trumpet and the tenor sax the most. In fact, if you look over here on desktop, all I have is the saxophone collection and the trumpet collection, which I think some of these, like the flugelhorn, might come in that collection with the trumpet. So there you have it. Those are the ones that probably get used the most by me, at least personally. So find your lane, find what you like to do, and create it. These are just suggestions, ideas, and showing you how I like to create a track on the computer, utilizing still audio stuff and things of that nature. All right, this video has went way longer than what I expected, but I wanted to show you what I do with the computer, and thought that would be a fun thing because I was just trying to create something. All right, have a good rest of your day. I'm out.